The bold and the beautiful spoilers. Ivy needs a boyfriend, and a better story than it's not proper meddling. The afternoon light poured through the massive windows of Forrester Creations, bright and golden, painting the design office in soft warmth. Sketches fluttered under the breeze of air conditioning, and the steady rhythm of heels clicking on polished floors created the usual soundtrack of ambition. Fashion moved fast here, always forward, always dramatic, but one person felt painfully stuck. Ivy stood near the mannequin display, arms folded, watching everyone else's stories unfold like perfectly tailored gowns while hers felt like a wrinkled draft shoved into the back of a drawer. She wasn't blind to it. Everyone else was caught in love triangles, business wars, shocking secrets, and emotional reunions. And Ivy? She felt like the woman in the corner, delivering polite warnings and raising moral eyebrows whenever things got messy. Somewhere along the way, she had become the voice of Prope, the gentle reminder of what people should do, but never the person boldly doing what she wanted. And lately, that realization stung. "Hey, you okay?" a voice asked. It was Katie, carrying a coffee and an expression that mixed concern with curiosity. Ivy forced a smile. "Of course. Just thinking. Dangerous hobby around here," Katie joked. Ivy laughed lightly, but her eyes drifted toward the bustling office again. Couples bickering flirtatiously. Designers whispering about relationships that changed every week. Drama that seemed exhausting, yet alive. She sighed. "Do you ever feel like everyone else gets the big moments?" Katie tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm always the one watching, commenting, or stepping in when someone's about to make a mistake. It's like that's all people expect from me. To be sensible." Katie smiled knowingly. "Maybe you're too good at it." "That's not exactly a compliment." "No," Katie admitted. "But maybe it's time for something different." Those words lingered long after Katie left. Something different. Ivy turned back to the sketches scattered around her. Forrester wasn't just about fashion, it was about reinvention. And maybe she had forgotten that applied to people, too. A quiet frustration. Later that evening, Ivy sat alone in her apartment, scrolling through old photos. Beach trips. Fashion launches. Moments that had once felt exciting but now looked like snapshots of someone waiting for life to happen. Her phone buzzed, a group message filled with playful arguments and inside jokes from coworkers. She smiled but didn't reply. She wanted more than background appearances. She wanted a story. A real one. Romance wasn't everything, she told herself. But when she thought honestly about it, she missed feeling chosen. Excited.
Seen.
She didn't want to meddle in other people's relationships anymore. She wanted one of her own. And not just any relationship, one that challenged her, surprised her, made her laugh. Someone who saw her beyond the polite exterior. Someone who didn't need fixing. The next day began normally. Meetings, fabric samples, endless chatter about deadlines, until an unfamiliar voice echoed from the hallway. "I'm looking for the design archives." Ivy glanced up. A tall man stood awkwardly near the entrance, holding a folder that looked slightly overstuffed. He had an easy smile, the kind that seemed natural rather than practiced. "You're lost," she said before thinking.
He laughed.
"Is it that obvious?" "Only a little." "I'm Daniel," he said, extending his hand. "New consultant. Apparently I'm supposed to help modernize the brand's international outreach." Ivy shook his hand.
Ivy.
"And yes, you are very lost." He grinned. "Good. I was hoping someone nice would rescue me." The exchange was simple, barely a moment, but something warm sparked in Ivy's chest. He wasn't intimidated by the building or trying too hard to impress anyone. He seemed normal. And normal was rare here. She walked him toward the archives, explaining shortcuts and office politics along the way. "I thought fashion houses would be glamorous," Daniel said. "This feels more like a battlefield." "It is," Ivy replied, "but with better outfits." They laughed together, easy, comfortable. Too comfortable. Ivy noticed it immediately, and something inside her shifted. Maybe this was what Katie meant. Something different. Old habits die hard. By lunchtime, Ivy found herself back in familiar territory, overhearing another relationship argument brewing nearby. Instinctively, she moved closer, ready with advice. Then she stopped.
No.
Not this time. She turned away instead, surprising herself. Across the room, Daniel waved as he struggled with a vending machine. She walked over, raising an eyebrow. You're losing to it. I think it's judging me. She pressed a button expertly, and the snack dropped instantly. He stared. You're a hero. I have many talents, she said, smiling. As they talked, Ivy realized something shocking. She wasn't thinking about anyone else's drama. She was laughing, living in her own moment. The gossip begins. Of course, in a place like this, nothing stayed unnoticed for long. Who's the new guy? Someone whispered. Ivy's been talking to him a lot. Are they? Ivy caught fragments of gossip floating through the air and felt heat rise to her cheeks. Usually, she'd shut it down politely.
But now,
she didn't mind. She liked the idea of people wondering. For once, the attention was about her. A conversation that changes everything. Later that week, Daniel invited her to coffee after work. Nothing fancy, just a nearby cafe. Not about scandals or fashion feuds, but about travel, childhood memories, terrible cooking attempts, and dreams that felt too big to say out loud. You're different from everyone here, Daniel said. How so? You listen. But I get the feeling people don't really listen to you. The words landed gently, but powerfully. She exhaled. That's surprisingly accurate. Then maybe they should start. His eyes held hers, steady and warm. And for the first time in a long while, Ivy felt seen. The shift. As days passed, Ivy started changing, subtly at first. She spoke up more in meetings. She pitched bolder ideas. She laughed louder. And she stopped apologizing for wanting more. Her wardrobe even changed, brighter colors, sharper cuts. Confidence became part of her style. People noticed. Something's different about you, Katie said with a smile. Maybe I'm finally writing my own story, Ivy replied. But this was still Forrester Creations. And no good thing arrived, without complications. Rumors spread that Daniel's role might conflict with existing power structures. Some people didn't want him there. Others questioned his intentions. Ivy overheard whispers. Is he using her to get close to the company? The old Ivy would have panicked, pulled away, or tried to mediate. But not anymore. When she confronted Daniel about it, he didn't get defensive. I like you, he said plainly. Not the company. Not the drama. You. Simple. Honest. And suddenly all the noise around them faded. Choosing herself. One evening, Ivy stood on the rooftop terrace overlooking the city lights. The wind carried laughter from inside, but she felt calm. She thought about how long she had spent being careful, trying to be proper, reasonable, safe. Safe had kept her invisible. Daniel joined her quietly. You look like you're thinking hard again, he said. I'm realizing something, she replied. I've spent so much time worrying about what's appropriate that I forgot to ask what makes me happy. And she turned to him, smiling softly. I think I'm figuring it out. He stepped closer, not rushing, just present. The moment felt real, not dramatic or explosive, just right. And that was enough. The next morning, Ivy walked into the office with renewed energy. The gossip still existed. The chaos still swirled. But she wasn't on the sidelines anymore. She had her own storyline now, one built on growth, laughter, and the courage to choose herself instead of playing moral referee to everyone else's mistakes. People would still expect her to be the sensible one sometimes. That was part of who she was. But now there was more. A woman discovering her voice. A romance grounded in honesty instead of chaos. And a future that felt wide open. As she sat down at her desk, her phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Dinner tonight? No work talk allowed. She smiled. Maybe the biggest twist wasn't dramatic at all. Maybe it was simply this. Ivy finally stepping out of the background and into the spotlight, not as the woman saying, it's not proper, but as someone brave enough to chase joy anyway.